Good morning. Welcome, everybody. We're here today to celebrate the power of connection. The reorganization of global markets, political uncertainty, the impact of climate change, and the advancement of technological change have all created the opportunity, and I'd say the imperative, for innovators, institutions, and entrepreneurs to lean into their connections. For 10 years, the York University School of Continuing Studies has been addressing some of Canada's largest labor market gaps by creating powerful connections, connecting our students to employers, connecting curriculum to industry need, connecting diverse experience to a rich and vibrant community. I'm Christine Brooks-Cappadocia, Assistant Vice President of Continuing Studies at York University, and I'll be your host today. 10 years ago, York University set out to build a school, but we built something so much more than that. We built a thriving community with connections that have contributed to the success of our graduates and our university, and I'd say our economy as well. Building on the 30-year history of the York University English Language Institute and its reputation, the School of Continuing Studies set out to build a new model of continuing professional education, one that connected employers and educators, industry experts, and educational professionals to build programs that deliberately produce graduates with the skills and knowledge and the experience that employers value. Together, we've built more than 40 programs, many of which are the first of their kind in the country, from our DevOps program to blockchain, product management, and most recently our certificate in digital construction management. Our unique approach to combining and making these connections, connecting industry and educators, right? Industrial expertise with educational best practices, theory and application, deep knowledge in a particular function area, and broad professional competencies. They've contributed to our school's amazing success, but also the success of our graduates. Our students graduate not just with a new set of skills and knowledge, they graduate with a community that they can nurture and rely on throughout their professional careers. So now, as we celebrate this milestone, it's time for the school to expand our focus to include you, our employer partners. You've given so much to our students and our university, and it's time for us to think about how can we build connections to help you thrive in the changing environment. So today is an opportunity for us to share some of the ways we're doing that, but also to hear from you and hear what you need from an employer partner so York University can continue to move forward with you as you grow and meet your goals. So let's get this party started. So today we're going to hear from President Lenton, York University President and Vice Chancellor. We're going to celebrate with a video featuring some of the many people who've been connected to our success story, and an engaging panel discussion on how academics and employers can work together to find common goals. And we're going to announce a new tool to help us build more connections in the years to come. During the celebration, if you need to find a restroom, they're over here behind the elevators. And if we need an emergency exit, they're right behind us here, behind me here. After the celebration, we hope you'll join us for the reception. During the reception, we encourage you to post videos and photos on social media, of course. And we would be remiss if we didn't celebrate the land we are on. So York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations in the area known as Takaranto, which has been taken care of by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and it's now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And we acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peacefully care for it and share the Great Lakes region. I'd like to thank the donors, the employers, the instructors, the colleagues, students, and community members who have joined us today. Together, we are making powerful connections and contributing to the educational and career advancement of so many in our community, our country, and globally through our professional and English language programs. I'd especially like to thank the colleagues from throughout the school and across the university who came together to organize this event, ably led by Melanie Melnick and Peter Allen Parker. There have been so many people who helped us to get to where we are today, and if I haven't mentioned you, please know that I am immensely grateful, and our students and our staff are grateful as well. This school would not exist without President Lenton, who first had the vision to build a new school of continuing studies at York University, and who made the initial connections to get us started and build this exciting and successful community. President Lenton, on behalf of the staff, the instructors, and the more than 37,000 learners who have studied with us, I want to thank you for your leadership and support. It's my great privilege to invite President Lenton to the stage.
I'm going to close your notes here, so you'll have to find your place again. Sorry. So hello, everybody. This is one of those opportunities that I have when I know enough about the whole history that I could just talk to you without using any of my notes. And it's always risky because then, of course, you leave out things that you really ought to have said. But I'm going to try to do a little bit of ad-libbing here. So first of all, I just want to thank you, Christine, and good morning, and bonjour. I really am very excited to be part of this event today, and it's so lovely to see some of you in the audience who have been so incredibly important. I do want to say myself that neither of my parents had the opportunity to go to university. So my siblings and I are first generation. And I come from a working class background and put myself through university between, fortunately, some scholarships, but also working part-time. And, and I've been very, very, very early on so committed to higher education and what the difference it can make in the lives of so many people. And, some people are incredibly successful without ever going to university or college, and I don't mean to imply that it's necessary for everybody. But it can be a huge, huge facilitator of, pursuing your future aspirations. And when I think about higher education especially and what's happening, and Christine mentioned a few of those factors around generative AI and what's happening globally, there's such an appreciation for the fact that it's not this notion that you go to K-12 and then you go to pursue, college or university, and then you get your job and you stay in that job. I mean, we all know that the environment is constantly changing, the labor force is constantly changing, the diversity of our students in every respect that you can imagine continues to increase, and that whole piece of working professionals needing sometimes to come back for upgrading or reskilling will only be increasing over time. And what we're seeing happening even right now is increasing demand for flexible education, increasing demand for different kinds of credentials. So not always thinking you might have a degree, but now you want to come back, you want to take a certificate, you want to combine that, maybe you want to move on to a diploma. And students are demanding that kind of flexibility, that kind of credential building. And some, if you ever read material by futurists, some of what they're predicting as future change over the next even 10 years, not even very long. It can be quite intimidating to think about, wow, this is going to be constant evolution. And at the center, and I've always had the privilege to be part of for a very, very long portion of my career, what is typically referred to as continuing studies or professional development or lifelong learning, before I even came to York. And I've been at York for 22 years, so that's been a very long time, that I've recognized just how incredibly important this whole area is, how in many ways it is sort of the glue that not only keeps together all the different kinds of credentials that we need to offer, that serves the diversity of the student population, but it keeps on, meeting that on demand, that on time, urgent need that students need. And so when I was Dean of Atkinson, we had, a small continuing studies, and it was struggling a little bit. We've had a very, very long history with ULE, of course. Our English is a second language institute. But we recognized that if we were really going to be able to properly serve students, it needed to move up to an institutional level school. And I had the privilege of hiring Tracy Taylor O'Reilly, who's here in the audience right now. And I remember that set of interviews very well. And we share this kind of vision of what could be possible. And Christine, I'm so grateful to you as well for how you have come in and carried on this tradition of what's really reflected in not only York's current vision, but in York's entire history. And the current vision, which is to provide a broad demographic of students with access to high-quality education at a research-intensive university that is committed to the well-being of the communities that we serve. That vision really reflects the very beginnings of York, its commitment to social justice and to access, and the School of Continuing Studies and what it has accomplished over the years really reflects that vision and that commitment. And there's more potential even yet to be realized when we start to think about that increasing demand for different kinds of credentials and for stackable credentials and how you can take those credentials and move them into a degree if you want to, or you've taken a degree and now you want to build and enrich that degree. So I see even further opportunity for continuing studies as we go forward. So now let's figure out if I need to say anything else that I haven't actually said here. They were kicking me off the stage in no time at all. I actually think I've mentioned most of what I want to say. I do just want to take a moment, though, to acknowledge how many first-to-market programs that the school has actually driven. Christine mentioned the number of programs, and also I mentioned the ULE and how that has become really core, an incredibly important piece of York's vision as we think about our global identity and how we can serve students around the world and how we can partner with strategic partners. We all know that many countries have already hit their population cliff, and the growth of 18 to 22-year-olds, never mind diversity of the age spectrum that we see here, is in the Asia-Pacific region. And so, it can be incredibly important for us to be thinking about how, if there are, students who want to take advantage of programs here, either online or in person, how can we help fill the gaps? And I had a long history for a while in working in what were the barriers for individuals, international students in particular, or newcomers to Canada in actually getting career-relevant employment. And it always fell on three areas. They were missing some type of important credential that they needed for Canada. Perhaps their English language skills were not strong enough, or they did not have sufficient Canadian work experience. Those are always the three factors. And what is so wonderful about bridging programs, School of Continuing Studies programs, ULE, is that they address exactly those three barriers for international students, but while also providing a huge range of different upgrading and reskilling for domestic students. So I really want to just acknowledge and thank all of you who teach and who have contributed to the programs at the School of Continuing Studies. You're the ones who have made this happen and supported its success over these numbers of years, and who developed these great new cutting-edge programs that are so needed. I also want to thank those of you who have come here as students. I just want to thank you for choosing York University. We are very privileged to have you here and grateful, and really hope that your time here has been good, but that also you continue to stay connected with us. You never know when you might need a little bit more reskilling down the path, and might be coming back, and we really want to keep all of you connected to us as alum. You can also be incredible mentors in the future as alumni for future students. And so I just ask all of you to think about staying connected, and just want to acknowledge, and I'm going to just apologize if I've missed something, because I'm not going back to these notes at this point, if I've missed something. But it's a real privilege for me to have been, and to continue at the moment, to be president of this university. I really believe in this university in many ways. It is transformative. It is cutting edge. It has led the sector when it comes to social innovation, interdisciplinarity, and I want to add to that list lifelong learning, professional studies, continuing studies. So congratulations to all of you on this very meaningful celebration, and I'm privileged to be here today. Thank you.
I've proofed my notes, so we're good. So thank you, President Linton. And you'd be pleased to know that there are a number of faces in this room that we first met when they were students, who've gone on and progressed in their careers and come back to us as instructors, industry leaders, employers of future students. We really are working to build this full cycle, life cycle. Once you're introduced to York, you should never, ever stop being a part of the community, and the people in this room embody that, so we're grateful. And I heard many challenges in your speech of things that we can take on and problems we can come together as a community and see how we can solve, so I'm really inspired by that. So over the years, we've had many people come and support us and contribute, employers, as we've mentioned, students, industry experts. And we invited just a few of them to share some thoughts with you in this video. So please enjoy. York University invested in the School of Continuing Studies in 2014 at a time when schools at universities across the country were shutting down their continuing education units. And why this was so important was York was investing in mid-career and older learners and in access to education, which is something that's fundamental to York University's DNA. It's in our founding guiding principles.
Our 10-year anniversary is not just a celebration of a decade of transformation. It's the launch of a new era of impact.
The school was created at a time that the labor market was changing, and we were hearing from employers that there were skills gaps that they were not able to fill. They were not able to hire, they were not able to retrain, they were not able to bring people in from other countries, and they were reaching out and begging post-secondary institutions to lean in and help them fill those skills gaps.
We made a recommendation saying if SCS can set up full-time certificate for professionals, that will be attractive. Student numbers for SCS, every year it's 20%, 30% growth.
So the need kept growing. And we decided to build this building.
We scaled really quickly, so we had to get these portables, and so the students were in portables, which was not ideal, of course, especially now with Christine's vision of this one school kind of approach. Things are all kind of coming together under one building. Teams are working much more efficiently with each other than they were before.
We work really hard as a school to make people feel welcome. You should be able to take that as a given, that we're ready to support you. We really pushed for accessible desks in every single classroom and public space. It's also critical to learning. You can't learn if you don't feel safe and included, because learning takes risks.
To be able to come into the building, see instructors teaching in their classrooms, see students engaging in the spaces just as we had imagined it, and to be able to walk through this spectacular space that is, custom designed for the needs of adult learners and international students. It was a very special moment.
I'd say 95% of the buildings we built.
We've come a far way, but what has not changed is our support of the students, our focus on giving the students the best possible experience.
My job as an ethical education consultant is ensure that they get the best education, the best outcome for them to be successful in Canada or in their home countries.
What we do is very helpful, especially when you go to join the graduation. You see the smiling face, the success, and you think, oh, what I did is really meaningful.
I noticed that the School of Continuous Studies was becoming a community. I was starting to know more people, and I wanted to come and visit York SCS. It's a little community in and of the university. And it's got that community spirit that makes me feel good about being here.
We develop programs not just based on curriculum trends, but grounded in what businesses actually need to stay competitive and to thrive. At the school, we're focusing on employer-led innovation, where we actively listen to the challenges you face and work with you to develop solutions that address real-world needs.
We've spent the first 10 years really digging into what do our learners need and getting very personalized in the level of education and the kinds of things we do to help learners reach their goals. The next phase of that is for us to turn our attention to the employer community and help our employers with their full cycle of talent needs.
Our next era, to become the full cycle solution for organizations ready to build the teams of tomorrow today.
We're at a precipice, and the future is going to be here faster than we think. This school was built for this moment in time. It was built for the decade that is ahead.
The dreams and the visions were that we were going to develop programs that had real potential, and that we were going to start involving and recruiting internationally.
My hopes for the future success and growth of this school is that we truly live our mandate to help Canada's economy thrive and become kind of the go-to shop for employers and learners in connecting.
The school was never just about programs. It was about making connections. It was about creating a safe environment for students to learn and ask questions and to grow. It was about leading by example. It was about making that experience one that was memorable, one where students walked away with different connections, different perspectives, where they had a sense of belonging, and one where they could learn and grow to be their best professional self.
The next evolution of continuing education is here.
It's leading the way, it's guided, and it's comprehensive and built for business. We're rewriting the playbook on how employers build, train, and retain high-performing teams, and we want you at the table.
Join us in shaping what's next.
Let's build the next generation of talent
together. I just wanted to take a moment and thank our incredible marketing team who have, as well as our guests who participated in the video, for telling our stories so well. So thank you. Employer partnerships, as you've seen, have been absolutely critical to the school's success. As we expand our services to benefit our employer partners in new ways, we look forward to learning where there are opportunities for us to connect, grow, and to support your goals. It's my great pleasure to invite Michelle Ahrens, Executive Director of Programs and Partnerships, to moderate a short panel on strategic connections, leveraging academic partnerships to support talent recruitment, renewal, and retention goals. Michelle?
I think Christine stole my microphone. All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being part of our 10th anniversary celebration. It's great to see a full room here out to celebrate and be part of this special moment. And thank you, Christine, for the welcome. As I look out into the audience, I'm sure I'm not the only one here who has been part of a team or has led a team that you have challenges, whether it's a challenge getting to retain, having great employees that you want to make sure you are able to retain, or whether you have gaps to fill in your teams and looking how to rescale or get the right hires in. And the question often lies in, how do we do that? Where do we turn? And today we have a wonderful panel put together of those who have been involved with the school, from industry, as well as obviously Christine, who leads the school. We're gonna have a great conversation. This isn't an interview, just an open conversation around, you know, what does that look like? How does industry and education intersect? Where do they intersect? And what ways you have all seen that happen and where you can go in the future with it. So I'm gonna turn to the panel now and ask them to do the introductions of themselves, only because you know yourselves best and will probably highlight the most important things to you. But I'll start here with Craig Stanley. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Craig Stanley. I'm the Director of Strategy and Process Improvement with CIBC Enterprise Security. Been with the bank 12 years. I teach here at the school the Business and Process Improvement course. It's a fun opportunity. I love working with the students. It's a wide variety of folks from different ages, experiences, and industries. Yeah, and we're moving into the very numerous challenges in the next few years, and it's great to be part of the community here at York.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Desi Singh to join us now and introduce himself.
Thank you. I was hoping you were going to introduce me, but okay, no, I'm just kidding.
I can do that too.
No, I know myself fairly well, I think. Hi, everyone. My name's Desi Singh. I'm currently the Vice President of Labor Relations Human Resources for Maple Leaf Foods. Historically, I've worked for a number of large, complex Canadian organizations, Canada Post, the CBC, CIBC, and now Maple Leaf Foods. So certainly been hopefully doing what's necessary for the country. Also, I've been, believe it or not, I had to look back. I've been an instructor here at the School of Continuing Studies for almost 8 years. So if we deferred the celebration one more month, I could have said 8 years. I have to say almost 8 years at this point. So I teach industrial relations, compensation, health, and safety. Certainly, it's been something super fulfilling for me to see the students of all different varieties of expertise, experience in their workforce. I hear from a lot of students about what the programs meant to them from their perspective in their career. So certainly super excited to be part of it. I'm also a part of the Program Advisory Council. So thanks.
Thank you. So you've touched on it a bit there, Desi, and you guys all know Christine, but do you want to say anything else about who you are?
No, just that I'm also an employer. We've done a lot of hiring over the years, particularly with this school. And so I come to things with that perspective as well.
Perfect. So I'm going to start off, and Desi and Stanley, I'm going to call you Stanley now. Craig.
All day, every
day. Just want to open up the conversation around, and you've touched on it in your opening a little bit, the roles you play not only within the school, but outside of the school, and what that means for your being an employer, and why you're doing that. Why is it so important? 8 years almost, and then a couple years here now. Why was this important to you to be part of the school, and what does it do for your organization?
Sure, I'm happy to start. We'll probably be playing ping pong to see.
Yeah,
I went first last time. It's your turn.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't know the rules. For me, certainly, I touched a bit on the fulfilling opportunity to give back. If you look back in my history, I'm a York alumni. I graduated from the Schulich School of Business. Actually, the second year, I was in my second year at Schulich, and they built the new building there. The video gave me a bit of nostalgia. I taught in the trailers, I taught in the new building, so it was like blast from the past. But certainly in terms of giving back to a school that's provided a lot to me, I just recently got my master's in law from Osgood. So also, yeah, needless to say, a lot to give back to York. But the type of content, course material, the flexibility on the part of me as an instructor who's part of the industry to be able to cater and customize my teaching style to the students is what I think has brought me the fulfillment as well as the students. I often, throughout the course, seek a lot of feedback from the students around, is the course working, is it not, and not just taking the content but bringing it to life, having it applied, having people practice certainly is something that's fulfilling to me. And given the diversity of the students and the people there, not any day I'm not pulling the same course. There's no template for it. Every day is sort of different, and causes me to be challenged to be on my feet to sort of offer a fulfilling class.
Amazing. Craig?
Wow, that's far more egalitarian than what I'm going to come up with, so I should have gone first. I thought it was a great opportunity. I really wanted to have access to the students and the environment. Talent is obviously a main driver in any organization. I think the test of any leader is how many people have you referred to the company in the past year, because that means either one of two things. Either you don't know anyone, or the people you don't think they should work here. So I go out of my way to create opportunities to try to bring talent in. I love the bank. I love what I do. The days fly by. It's a great organization. I think if I invited 2 more people to my wedding, I could have written it off as a team building exercise. I'm really passionate about business and process improvement, and even though that's literally in my job title, I don't get to talk about it at work ever. The line that I use all the time is, in North America, we sell 250,000 half-inch drill bits every year. Nobody wants a drill bit, they want a half-inch hole. I spend all my time at work talking about the hole because they want to know how I'm going to make more money, reduce costs, or reduce risk. The thing I like best about the course is I got to design a course to talk about, let's build some drill bits. And I got really excited, and all the class, I'm like, no, let's go. This is how we make people work better. We're going to make their jobs better. We're going to make things simpler for them. We're going to take all the stupid work that they don't want to do off their desk and put it into an automation engine and do it for them. And it was perfectly, it was very, yours was so much better, because mine was entirely selfish.
Yours was great. Yours was phenomenal.
So meet cool people, do cool things, and engross myself in things that I like talking about that I don't get to.
I think there's value in both, right? But whether at work or personal, there's definitely value there. So thank you for sharing. Christine, from the educator perspective.
Well, absolutely. Well, not only do I like to talk about education all day, from those of you who know me outside of work, there's a lot of education talk. But it's, from an educational perspective, we have the opportunity to actually see hands-on very quickly if what we're doing in the classroom and how we're designing programs has an impact on the workforce. Craig talks about, bringing people, introducing people to the company. A number of our staff actually started out as students, right, and have nurtured and grown in, or are students. There's a few of you who've taken just about every program. I'm looking for Marina. Just about every program we've ever taken, you've gone in and upgraded your skills. That's important, right? Jobs are changing around us. The skills I had 6 months ago aren't up to date with the skills I need today, right? I'm playing with generative AI constantly in my work and experimenting. We want our students to be able to do that. It's that spirit of continuously learning that will help us thrive. I was a York professor, and I've forgot. Oh, it was actually Andrew Maxwell, one of our Program Advisory Council members, was out in the media last week talking about Canada's productivity challenge. We have a real opportunity with this fast reskilling, upskilling, continuing skilling to really address that productivity challenge, because people know what they can and learn the new skills they need quickly and then apply them to their work the next day.
Thank you, Christine. And it's interesting because you've touched on it, the changes in the workforce that we're seeing, economy, where there's so many changes every day there's a change. And so continuing, and President Lenton spoke to this earlier, the continuous need to upskill and reskill, and it's so important. So I'd like to jump into how, from different perspectives on the panel, how you see the intersection of education and industry working together, and what are the most successful ways you think that could work in a partnership way?
Sure. So I'm a big fan of the Mark Twain expression of the most dangerous thing is the thing you know for sure that isn't true. What I like the best about the School of Continuing Studies is it draws on a talent base that has within itself a inherent vulnerability. In order to come here, you have to admit, I don't know everything. I don't have all the skills that I need. And there's a lifelong commitment to upskilling and continually learning. Because if there's, I mean, it's a moot point at this point, but like everything is changing so quickly. The tools we'll be using in 5 years haven't been developed yet. No one knows what 10 years from now is going to look like. So schools like this are more important than ever from an industry perspective because it's not only the tangible need to drive value in a very meaningful way, it's also the intangible need to have that internal vulnerability to say, I need to be continually improving and keep my eyes open because the days of putting your head down and doing your job for 30 years are over.
It's one of the things, facts that has been resonating with me in the last year is that when we built this school, people were changing jobs every 2 years, and the traditional educational models for continuing education meant that it would take about 5 years to finish the certificate as a part-time adult learner. And that obviously was too slow. People are now changing, this Gen Z is changing jobs every 6 to 8 months. So you hire them, you spend a third of their salary looking for them, right, within a given year. You hire them. They've just figured out kind of where the bathroom is and, kind of what the forms are that they need to fill out and who they need to talk to, and they're already looking for their next job. So if we can find ways to help our employer partners not only train them faster, but retain talent, right? That's the key, is helping to retain and grow talent. The type of people Craig's talking about who know that there are vulnerabilities. There was a report out, I think it was McKinsey on Friday, that was talking about the biggest problem employers have to solve right now is that staff have forgotten how to solve problems, and it's probably an impact of working remotely and the pandemic and not communicating with each other enough in a physical environment. But people have globally have forgotten how to solve problems. So by bringing learners together within diverse experiences led by industry experts such as our instructors, but to solve real problems through things like work-integrated learning, we have an opportunity to rebuild that skill set in the Canadian workforce. There's just so much potential there, right? And there's the win-win of if you train your staff and you keep them excited, you'll retain them longer, and you'll have better skilled staff who are happy. That's kind of a win-win-win.
Yeah, for sure. Desi, do you want to jump in on this
Sure,
question?
yeah, tough crowd to follow. Certainly, I can't say what they said, but certainly I would if I could. I think from my perspective, certainly there's a huge opportunity. I think, and I don't disagree, having seen the school sort of evolve over the years, it's been sort of satisfying to see where that's at. But we are at a cusp in a position where things are moving so quickly, you sort of need to reinvent yourself sort of on the fly. I think the challenge for the school and a lot of schools will be not to be complacent and to make sure we're listening to people from the industry about what it is they want as opposed to simply going through here's what you're going to get. And I also look at society evolving, and I feel like I got louder. I see society evolving too, to the point where people aren't just doing jobs for the sake of doing jobs. They want to do something that is fulfilling, that's meaningful, and you may have been in a role or a career for 10, 15 years, but you've said, I want to do something different. I want to go there and I want to seek the training, and I think the School of Continuing Studies here has been good at being flexible and allowing people who may not be able to say, I'm going to quit my job and take 2 years off to try to to get a degree, to be able to do it sort of on the fly. And I think that flexibility is super important.
And on the point that Christine raised about the number of people who are changing jobs, that amount of the transient nature of today's workforce introduces significant risk to your business because you lose that institutional knowledge. And again, not to pump my own course, but if you don't write things down, that institutional knowledge goes out the door with them. And so having resilient processes that don't require people to have been there for 10 years, it's terribly important that you keep people, retain people, And one thing I'm currently experimenting with is a generative AI method of where's the bathroom type problems. So who does what, who does this, how do we solve these sort of problems, and using the generative AI as a stopgap between those sort of 8 to 10 years of, oh, everyone knows Karen. Karen does that thing. She balances the books, and Bob is the guy that runs the wire thing. We need to sort of put that all together for people, and generative AI is an opportunity for that, but teaching those skills and sort of upskilling, it's critically important.
You look like you want to say something.
No, I want to know, I think I need a side conversation.
Yeah, I think so
with Craig
too.
All about that.
It sounds very, very interesting. I think you've all led into my next question, which is about talent shortages. And there's the hiring and then the retaining, which all of you have talked about a little bit. And I'm just wondering, from the employer perspective, specifically, what pressures are you feeling? What are you doing currently? Where do you look when you're trying to retain through education? I mean, you are part of the school, and clearly you have that in, but what would you suggest for any other employers, and what could that look like in the future?
Yeah, I can kick things off. Certainly, yeah, retention is a huge need. Not just the institutional knowledge, but also, you know, some of the skills, the relationships, people who fit the culture of an organization you're looking for. I think culture is super important, certainly for the company I work for and for many other companies. And when you find that right cultural fit, you know, that helps in conjunction with the institutional knowledge and trying to understand where the companies come from and understand where it's going. But certainly the shortage does pose in certain instances. Not every role is hypercritical, but there are a certain number of hypercritical roles. And when someone decides to leave or some people leave from that team, it does put some vulnerability to the business there. And certainly you can take steps that are proactive around succession planning, development, et cetera, but there still is a bit of a transition period where the company is somewhat vulnerable. And that certainly, when you look at, you know, what can you do to sort of shore up your bet internally, I think there's a need to look at on-the-job training, what you can do, education-wise, what you can supplement, whether it be internal to your organization or external.
It's a great point that there are different elements. It's not just education, but there's internal training and supports as well that go hand in hand. But I'd love to explore in the next question. I'll give Craig and Christine a chance to answer this one, but explore that a little bit more. But Craig, do you want to add to that?
So globally, cybersecurity has 5.5 million people working in it. We have a 19% shortcoming in both headcount and skill development. That number's increasing year over year. 40% of our workforce is over the age of 50. It's terribly important that we continue to train the skills and get the people. I'm actually currently partnering with Marina, not in my capacity as an instructor here, but in my capacity as a director at the bank, to bring York in to talk to our employees that are working in non-security roles so that we can leverage business and client knowledge, give them the skills and knowledge they need to identify what ransomware is and how to stop clients from clicking on things. Good luck with that. But to find new resources of pre-existing knowledge. So if I find someone who already works at the bank, who already knows how to open a checking account, I don't need to show them where the bathroom is. I have to teach them what a good password looks like.
And there's a 90% of employees will stay with an employer that invests in them, right? That's also the main benefit that employees look for when they're evaluating one job offer or another. Does the company believe in me enough to invest in it? So that retention, but also that reskilling and kind of helping develop high performers along what is potentially a nonlinear career path is absolutely critical. It's been key to my own development here at the school. At one point I've done just about every job, including the accountant role a little bit. Not well, but I've been exposed to just about every job here. And it helps develop that depth of knowledge of an organization that you can lean on to identify where something might be a problem, right, that needs to be solved.
Sorry, and just to tack onto that, I think from a retention standpoint, that certainly is a tool we tend to utilize from an attraction standpoint, as we tend to say, look at our CEO, for example, or look at our senior executives. They've come through the organization, they've worked a variety of jobs, we've invested in their development, and that certainly acts as a great attraction tool also.
Yeah, it's a very good point about investing in there, and one of the conversation or questions I want to ask a bit later is around that, and maybe we can do that right now, is what are employers doing currently? I know it's going to differ between employer, but with both of you up on the stage right now, in terms of supporting growth through education, investing in your employees, because to Christine's point, employees are staying because, in a lot of cases, because they are recognized for the work that they're doing and that they are supported in the growth within that work. So how do you both, I'll start maybe Desi, because you just ended with that point, is how is CIBC working to, or sorry, getting all the companies at Maple Leaf?
You used to work there too.
It is in the background. No, how is Maple Leaf working to support employees in growth?
No, it is a big question. I know, I don't think we have 3 hours for me to answer it, so I'll try to do it in 30 seconds to the best of my ability. I think it's important for current as well as new potential employees for them to understand the career mapping that exists at Maple Leaf Foods and how they can go from one role to the other, what skills are needed as you move up and progress through the various levels of the organization. So I think initially laying it out very clearly and objectively to people, and then providing the supports for those who want to grow and develop as to how they can gain the skills to be able to move themselves up. And it's important for us to understand, progression doesn't always mean a promotion tomorrow. It could mean a lateral move. It could mean joining a project. It could mean, trying to understand some of the other facets of the business. So we utilize a wide variety of sort of tools to make sure that people can A, see progression within the organization, and B, they can see themselves with an opportunity to progress within the organization. I think when people don't have the clarity there, they just wonder, is the promotional tool arbitrary? Is there any transparency? And we found that was a super important tool for us.
It's great laying it out at the beginning and throughout. Being able, you made a note of those who want to. So those who are putting up their hand and saying it, does it go the other way with the employer saying, hey, you'd be great for this? There's that element as well. I think you'd fit, is this something of interest? Is that sort of part of that cycle as well?
For sure. There's a lot of people, we call them pros in position, who like where they're at, they're good at where they're at, they don't want to go anywhere else, and and that helps too. And so trying to just differentiate who really wants to evolve, who wants more, and again, more can come in many different shapes and forms.
Great. Craig, do you want to add to that? How's it at CIBC, not Maple Leaf?
He can do Maple Leaf now.
Yeah, you can just switch it up.
So we have mandatory development goals, everyone across all the security organization. It's part of your annual review of how are you growing and changing. Now, growth and change can be different things to different people. It's not like thou shalt take a course at York, although I'm pushing.
We should work on that.
I'm trying, Marina. I really am. But there's different ways for everyone to be growing and changing, but having weekly conversations with your one-up about, what are you working on, what are you interested in, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, and what skills you need to get there, making it part of the culture and everyday conversation of we as an organization are a collection of individuals. The organization gets better when each individual gets better.
That's fantastic. It sounds like slightly different, but same area. And as you're explaining it, Craig, it doesn't sound like it's much different than it's always been. Just now, it's necessary. It is part of the world that we live in.
It's reflective of the marketplace. You have to keep learning, because if you're not learning, you're falling behind.
Exactly. I'm going to throw it to Christine from the perspective of the school. Different question. What is the school doing to keep up with that? What is the school, how are we transitioning through the changes that we're seeing and supporting employers?
Absolutely. So you know about our public programs. I'm going to talk about, actually, I'm going to change your question a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because I will.
You're my boss.
And some of the coolest ways that I've seen employers work with us, and the reason I'm changing the question is because every organization has different needs and goals. And it's in our DNA to find out where the commonality is between what we can offer well and where our clients' needs and goals are. And so we often don't pursue a lot of traditional corporate training. We do that, and we can do that. But where I'm most excited about working with employers are those that we've got, a large unit at the federal government, national technology unit, and also a national retailer who have really opened up learning to their employees to be much more self-directed, again in that spirit of what not only does what each employer needs, but what each individual employee needs for their own growth and development, and opened up the course catalog in ways to allow their learners to continue to take York University programs throughout their career. So they pick and choose what they want. You might be, we've had experiences where store managers have taken cybersecurity. We've had cybersecurity experts take HR through these programs. And it's just, our role is to facilitate and make it easier for the employer to offer this, and then the employee goes on and does it, pursues their own path and their own mapping and develops their own skills. Our job is to really get rid of the barriers that get in the way of that. So that's the thing I'm most excited about. Of course, I love work-integrated learning. I think most of you have heard me talk about work-integrated learning far too much, but it's a way for us to help employers de-risk hiring somebody, right? You've already tested them out. You've seen how they think. We do it in our own hiring process here. Everybody has an assignment between interview 1 and interview 2 because I want to know how you think. Well, if I can actually have you do that in a classroom and get a whole group of 60 of you doing the same assignment, I know who's going to be thinking in the way that our organization solves problems. So really looking to de-risk wherever we can.
Fantastic. Yeah, Desi, do you want to add or respond to that at all?
Yeah, I just want to, you seem surprised by that.
No, that's fantastic. I'd love to hear what you have to think.
It's just funny. It brings me back to sort of what you're saying. It brings me back to some of the courses I taught, specifically industrial relations, like as opposed to simply just teaching the arbitration process. I remember I had done this simulation where the whole class had to prepare and sort of go through their arbitration itself, and sort of we simulated it, they prepared, they did the research, they argued the case, and at the end of the day, everyone was super happy, and I sort of said, yeah, it's a fun exercise, but what is it? They're like, if I ever get to a point where I need to go to arbitration or I need to go to mediation, I know where to sit. I know what to say. I know what not to say. I know what you're thinking when you sided with us. I know what, I just got part of the process. Obviously doing anything new, has some semblance of anxiety, but just to go through the motions of an actual arbitration, for me, I just remember getting a lot of good feedback around the practical nature of that.
And in a job interview, those students can say, not only do I know in theory how this works, but when we did this, these are the sorts of things we did. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, that's a very, very good example, Desi, so thank you for throwing your microphone in the air. Because it does speak to the intangible pieces that come through theory, that don't come through theory, and those elements that are coming from the employers being at the head of our classes, our classrooms, and sharing what they live and breathe every day, not just the theory elements that they need to know as they walk in. And then in some cases, it's the portfolio, it's the how to know where to stand and where to sit and where to do. Those are the pieces that make the difference for when they get into the workforce. Craig, do you want to add anything since Desi did, or you don't have to? It's okay.
Just briefly, one of the things that we do in my course is we have an entire unit on how to have uncomfortable conversations. Because as part of business process improvement, never has there ever been a situation they're like, everything's running great, let's go send the process guy over there. Generally speaking, something is broken. Generally speaking, someone isn't doing something or should be doing something, whatever the situation is. And the people that you need to get information out of to enact a solution are typically the ones who are accountable for the thing that you're there to fix. So we have an entire series of role-playing exercises of, let's not blame anyone, let's make sure, but it's one of those things where if you take a purely academic approach, you wouldn't get there's a lady in a part of fraud that hates me because I showed up and I changed her baby very dramatically, and it works much better now, and she ultimately was very happy with me, but the first 3 weeks of that relationship was tense.
Right. Great example, yeah. Those babies are close to everyone's heart. So thank you for sharing. I'm getting timed at the back, so I definitely gonna just throw off to the last question here, and it's a big one because I'm thinking back to one of your answers, Craig, where you said we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. But my question is, looking ahead to the next 10 years, what's one of the things we should be doing now to build the kind of workforce for the future, remembering the context of employer and educator intersection? It's a big question to end with.
Be data first. Get really comfortable with what a data set is, how to organize it, what sanitization looks like, what corruption looks like, how to collect information in a repeatable format. Get used to force maximizing. So the idea that You need to be leveraging automation. You need to be leveraging, like when we go to quantum, like who the hell knows what's going to happen once they start changing the nature of the fundamental nature of computing is going to change a million things. Get really comfortable with learning how to define problems. A problem well defined is half solved. Get really comfortable with just continuously learning because the biggest changes are ahead of us, in my humble estimation.
It's, I think we all are feeling it for sure. Changes are happening right now. Go ahead, Desi.
Yeah, no, perfect segue to sort of mine. I think appreciating, acknowledging changes are happening. I know change is hard, but sort of trying to embrace it as opposed to fear it. For me, opening and keeping the lines of communication open is going to be, for me, fundamental to dealing with 10 years down the road, because what we're talking about today to help keep the ship afloat is only going to keep us afloat for 6 months to a year. So you're going to need to constantly be changing, pivoting, moving, and that dialogue and that communication about what needs to happen going forward is for me, what's going to help mitigate the risk of 5-10 years from now.
Sorry, really quickly, great point, just to put a finer tip on it. Prioritize building relationships and growing your network, because we'll be able to solve more problems if we listen to each other and have that human connection amongst your colleagues, because you really do need to create a body of people to help solve these problems, because we don't have all the answers.
Sorry, it's funny you say that. No, but and I don't know. You don't want to put a damper on this, but COVID was a good example of that. No one saw what COVID was. Nobody knew what it was, but the collaboration industry-wide about what are you doing, what challenges, how have you solved this, as opposed to everyone in a silo trying to solve each problem individually. There was just so many problems that if you sort of had that ongoing dialogue, it helped make a very difficult time just a little bit easier. And easy is probably not the right word to characterize it, but yeah.
Also, we only met an hour ago. We don't actually know each other. Bank's a big place.
Now best friends, I think. It hasn't confirmed that yet.
Well, clearly you're switching companies as well. So I'm going to ask Christine, but just one thought here is in terms of the connection back to the educator and York specifically in the School of Continuing Studies. You're both very involved with the school, so again, thank you for that. But it also brings to light that being part of that world is important to help support the future growth, and being at the table and having those conversations of how we need you to help us validate what we're teaching in classroom, need you to present in classroom and all of that. You go ahead, Christine.
No, well, I was going to encourage you to lean into your connections, but clearly that we're going to do that. So I'd encourage people, as we're preparing for the change and to support our organizations, is to really lean into your academic partners as well, right? We've got a university full of people who are researching the future. We've got an aerospace program here that's amazing. We're doing the Connected Minds project is doing really neat things. So lead into your industry partners and your educational partners so that we can be a little bit ahead of the change, right? When you mentioned COVID, we were online, the School of Continuing Studies was online in 24 hours, completely online, which maybe wasn't such a big stretch for a professional education group, which was doing hybrid learning and online learning already. But for English language programs, which had been face-to-face for 30 years, that was huge. So lean into us. We're here to help. We're here to problem solve. And we've got this amazing hive of connections that can really add value to support both organizations.
Thank you. Well, I'm just going to thank you all for being part of the panel. Thank you to the audience for listening and taking the time to be part of this conversation today. It's been a great conversation. I didn't even need to moderate because you guys just took over. It was great. But thank you. We heard a lot about collaboration. It is something that's needed. Lifelong learning is a part of all of our lives. And so we'll continue to have those conversations, and looking forward to having more conversations in the future. Thank you. We're now going to have Christine back I'll give you back your mic now. I don't know.
Yeah,
you stole mine before. So.
It matched my outfit better. Thanks, Peter. And thank you, Michelle, Desi, and Craig, for a really enjoyable conversation. And it's one that I hope we'll continue to have. And that will expand to include everybody that's in this room, and of course beyond that. It's almost time for the reception, but not before I give you a sneak preview of something else we've been working on to connect industry leaders, to extend our connections with employers and learning beyond the classroom and into the community. I particularly want to thank John Weigelt, Richard Pinnock, who's joined us here today, Anika Ford, and Priya Bates and Laura Babcock for their support of this project in its infancy. The new Successfully Ambitious podcast explores the career journeys of many inspiring people connected to our school to provide encouragement, ideas, and practical advice to our audience, including their career questions. So please enjoy this 90-second teaser. Welcome to Successfully Ambiguous, the podcast that asks, when opportunity knocks, will you be ready to answer? I'm Christine Brooks Cappadocia, Assistant Vice President of Continuing Studies at York University. In my own career, I started out as an artist, often juggling up to 5 jobs just to get by. In this podcast, we'll meet some of the people who inspire me, learn how they got to where they are today, and the lessons they learned along the way.
You'll find that it's never that straight line path. It's always a little jagged, right, and crooked, and it's because you're learning about yourself.
You can only arrive upon a point of decision having gone on the journey to get there. And so what that means is you have to build up those experiences so that you have an appreciation for what is that next path in the road that you need to take.
I think we're often allowing failure to stop us in our tracks before we even get to really think about making those connections or asking for a connection.
I would suggest you use every day very judiciously and make it about reaching your full potential.
So join me as we learn how to embrace ambiguity to build success. So my learning is if you're ever going to launch a podcast, don't put the word successfully and ambiguous together because they're very hard to say. But the first 4 episodes of the podcast are now out on Spotify, so please go to YouTube, and they're also on YouTube, so go to subscribe, like, share. I think I have to say that now. So we're about to wrap up the formal part of this event, and I hope you'll join us in room 113 to meet our team, enjoy refreshments, and share your reflections on the past 10 years, your career journeys, and any goals an academic partner might be able to help you with. Once again, I want to thank the many colleagues and friends who have joined us on stage today, shared reflections in our video and on the podcast, and have helped us build this wonderful school community. But before you leave today, be sure to pick up the beautiful handcrafted local bonbons as a token of our appreciation. We hope you'll enjoy them, perhaps with a glass of wine while listening to a podcast. And of course, liking, subscribing, and sharing. So we'll consider how, and as you're doing that, I hope you'll consider how we can work with you to help your organization reach its goals and build the future we want together. So thank you again for joining us to celebrate this important milestone. Together, we will continue to build powerful connections and success.